What's up, guys? Welcome to our Champions League round of 16 special. I'm Christian, your host, joined by my good friends Andrew, Jacob, and Ricardo. Today, we'll be breaking down the round of 16 matchups in the Champions League, which begins on Tuesday. We're currently recording this on Friday night. So before the weekend games, we'll kind of get a gist of these teams, predict who we have going to the quarterfinals. But before I get started, guys, how are we doing tonight?
Good. We got a busy night.
Fired up.
Two episodes tonight.
Got a lot to do.
That's right.
So you'll see this after. So we're recording this first before our regular episode, which you'll actually see first. So kind of confusing, but think of this as a prequel to our next episode.
Working overtime. That's what we're doing.
Or to the last episode. Confusing our listeners. Yeah. Let's go on. Let's not confuse them anymore. We're talking Champions League.
Ready to get started?
Oh boy!
All right, let's do it. All right, first one up is on Tuesday. It's Copenhagen versus Manchester City. David versus Goliath, I would argue. I don't know what Jacob's giggling about, but
because you think they have a chance.
Who did?
I mean, this is over before. This is over as soon as we saw Copenhagen.
Hey, we got to give them their respect. They got out of their group. Let's discuss this at least before we throw anything out there yet. Of course, Copenhagen got out of a group that many didn't expect them to get out of. I would argue Manchester United were there. Galatasaray were also in that group, and they were able to get to a spot where they finished second in that group. And of course, they're going up against the reigning champions in Manchester City. Anybody give Copenhagen the slightest bit of chance in this tie?
Lol.
Yeah, I mean, maybe at home, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, that's about it.
Because they played a lot of the games were very tight and they were close group stages, so you have to give them that. They clearly have a spark, but they're not beating Manchester City. I mean, unless Pep plays like his B team or C- team, I don't see them having a chance. Where he the last Champions League game where he played all those 18-year-olds, maybe, but it's not going to do that. So,
and Man City is only getting healthier. I mean, come on, Kevin De Bruyne is looking just like he did last season in his limited time coming back from injury. And I mean, this is probably the easiest matchup to predict. Actually, not probably, definitely the easiest matchup to predict in the round of 16. It's just unfortunate because Copenhagen, I mean, they really did. I mean, they had a storybook run. I mean, come on. This small club coming through and overcoming teams like Man United, who had a dreadful group stage, and a competitive Galatasaray side, overcoming them. So give them their respect. They got to this point, as Christian said, but Manchester City is I mean, you said this was David versus Goliath. This is like Goliath times 100. You don't want to mess around with them. So, and I don't think Copenhagen will. I think they'll try, but they will ultimately fail.
Ricardo, you tend to agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, in the group, you got past a United side that was atrocious, and I mean, one of the worst we've seen in a while. Mm-hmm. Galatasaray, which somehow, I mean, those two games between those two were great, but I don't know. They gave Bayern a good fight at home, but let's be real. This is the defending champs in Man City, and I mean, it's not happening. I'm sorry, it can't.
If they don't get out of this, I would fire Pep on the spot.
That's a little outrageous.
I'm not actually, but it's a fireable offense if he can't beat Copenhagen.
I don't think it is, though.
I mean, they
can't just disregard everything else that's happened.
I know. I mean, I'm just saying, that's how bad it is.
It would be a big
talk about a letdown.
Yeah.
Also, City have had a cakewalk so far in the Champions
Yeah,
League.
and this is more proof of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Whatever. It's fine. It's just how it goes. I'm not
The
mad.
one thing I will say too is I can't recall a time post-COVID where cities had trouble early in the knockout stages, like where they even felt like they've been threatened in a tie. I can't recall where there's been one where it feels like they've gone into a second leg with pressure on them. The one thing I will say is when the bigger teams in Copenhagen's group went to Denmark, those games were very competitive. They weren't, dominating on the ball on the road, but at least when they played in Denmark, I mean, they lost by 1 to Bayern. They beat Manchester United. I know they kind of shot themselves in that foot in that game, and they beat Galatasaray. So it is good for Copenhagen that at least the first leg's at home, because I think if they played in England, they would probably be going into the second leg down by 4 goals at the bare minimum, it feels like. At least if they can make it competitive in the first leg, they can go to England thinking maybe they could pull up a shock. But yeah, it doesn't feel like there's any hope. City's won 9 straight games dating back to the Club World Cup. So we talk about them trying to find their rhythm. They're in that spot now.
They found it.
And De Bruyne's now starting games. He's started the last 2 against Burnley and Brentford. And again, we've talked about him. He's the best midfielder in the league. He's probably the best midfielder in Europe. So you add him, you have Julian Alvarez scoring goals. I think this is going to be pretty comfortable. I don't see this being, even if Copenhagen were to, let's say, lose the first leg by a goal, City's going to go back home and put 4 past them at the bare minimum. So it's a very difficult run for Copenhagen, especially because of all the hard work they did to get to this place. But they got the worst draw for a second-place team.
When's Holland coming back?
Holland's been playing, but he hasn't been scoring. Right. So unless he picked up an injury against Brentford, I think he should be available for Tuesday.
Okay.
With or without him, they're still beating him.
Because it just
Yep.
Yeah. No, I just want to point out that Manchester City, the last time they didn't advance past the round of 16, 2016-17, and that was they lost to Monaco.
That was the Mbappe run, right, with Monaco?
Yeah. Yes, that was Monaco and Mbappe.
First year, I think.
I believe so as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because that was the last time Chelsea won the league. So yeah, it was Pep's.
Yep, 2016-17. Yep, that was Pep's first year.
That's crazy. That was that long ago.
So yeah, so they've advanced to at least the quarterfinals every year since then.
Yeah. Jeez.
Andrew, I'll start with you. Aggregate score and a potential X factor as the difference maker for City.
So I'm gonna go 5-2 aggregate. I think Copenhagen will score at least a goal in each match. And X factor, I mean, City's just, trying to pick out like the embarrassment of riches here. But God.
It's like the Avengers.
Right. That's exactly what it's like. Man. I mean, I guess I'll have to go Jeremy Doku off if he's coming off the bench. And if they're in a situation away where it is like 1-1 and they need a goal, I think Jeremy Doku can be that spark plug right off the bench. And we'll see. Change the pace a little.
Jacob?
I have my aggregate score was City 5-2. I had them winning 2. I know I actually be a little generous, being 2. They'd win 2-1 at Copenhagen and then 3-1 at home. My X factor is Julian Alvarez, who I've done the biggest heel turn on ever.
Yeah.
What was that thing with remember that quote with Shaq and Christian Wood, where he's like, I wasn't familiar with their game, or what was it? It was like, I'm sorry I wasn't familiar with your game. That's me with Julian Alvarez right now. He has 4 goals in 4 Champions League games, I think it is, or there's 4 in his last 4 for Man City. He's in a good run of form. He's really good. He just knows what to do. He makes plays. That's the best way I can describe him. So he's my X factor. And if Holland is not fully fit, they're definitely going to need him to lead the line.
Ricardo?
So my aggregate score is 6-2. I'm gonna say it's 3-1 both legs. Don't really matter. I think City's just gonna score a ton regardless. And my X factor is also Jacobs. For the exact same reasons pretty much that he's playing. I mean his best football. I mean probably maybe his entire career with City so far. And he's close to like 10 assists and I think he might even be at that mark right now with that last game that was just played. But yeah, he's just, even if Holland doesn't start, I mean, still, he's such a big factor, such a goal scoring threat and can just assist goals as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's just such a huge part. And I mean, Pep has figured out a way to get the best out of him.
Yeah, I think what's interesting with Alvarez is when Haaland's out of the team, he can play as a 9 and he's effective. And when Haaland's in the team, and when he's out of the team, he plays as a 9, very good there. When he's also in the team with Haaland, he plays like underneath him, and then that's when he becomes a better playmaker. So Jacob's right. I think he's maybe their most versatile forward, along with another guy who I'll quickly mention. My aggregate score, I'm going to go with 7-1. I think they're going to completely dominate them in the second leg. It's just tough to see a way for them to defend, cohesively against this team because they have so many different weapons from the midfield, the attacking wing backs. You have Kyle Walker coming out of nowhere to, play great passes into the final third. And my X factor is Phil Foden. He has 22 goal involvements this season. I think he's very underrated in what he's done this year. We saw it against Brentford midweek. He had a hat trick. It feels like he's always in the right position at the right time. With Kevin De Bruyne now back in the team, it's like he's under the radar again. I think he's one of England's best young talents. And to me, I mean, 22 goal involvements speaks for itself. So if Copenhagen play a deep line, I think Foden can make runs from the midfield, and he's going to be in the positions to score goals. So I think Phil Foden's going to have a big round of 16 tie.
Do you think he's finally starting to like peak where like I feel like forever it's always been like, oh, wait until Phil Foden pops off, wait until Phil Foden finds his form. It's like we've been like told forever that like he's the next big thing. And I wouldn't say he's been disappointing, that's be the wrong word, but I don't think he's like taken off. But you think now is like where it's starting to really click?
Yeah, I think you're right with the fact that it's been underwhelming. He should be a guy, I think, that should be on the team sheet every single week. That's what he should be at if his ceiling is there. And I think right now it'd be hard to argue that he shouldn't be in the best 11 every single game, especially in these big Champions League matches. Because Doku's dealt with an injury. Grealish has been all over the place this year.
He's better than Grealish to me. He offers more than Grealish.
I think in their best 11, Foden's playing out wide. Bernardo should be in the best 11 as well. So I think Foden, at this point, given his form, he needs to start every single big match for City until an injury possibly comes up. But I think this year we're kind of seeing the best of him, which is certainly, as you guys have mentioned, the embarrassment of riches. He's just another weapon they can use in multiple places. You can look at him as an 8. He can play out wide. He could play as a second striker, almost as a number 10. So I think Foden's, along with Alvarez, their two most versatile forwards. But is that everything for Copenhagen? Nice having them in the competition. But
I think we mentioned them enough.
Yeah. Well,
to be honest, I think we talked a little too much about this match, or this matchup. Yeah. I think it's gonna be a wipeout.
Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see how this first leg goes in Denmark. But on Tuesday we have a very important tie for two of our friends here, and that is RB Leipzig versus Real Madrid, a German team that's, I would argue, very underwhelming right now. They're very inconsistent, but they do have some key players that can make an impact, certainly. And you have Real Madrid, who have dominated this competition in so many different years over the last decade or so. So, Andrew, I'll start with you as one of our Real Madrid fans. What's your confidence level on a level of 1 to 10 going into this?
I mean, it's definitely higher than it was in December. I think I was more. I mean, I thought, I definitely had us beating Leipzig in aggregate in December, but I think Leipzig just hasn't looked that impressive in Bundesliga. They're right now 5th in the table. I mean, Madrid, I think I think this recent tough stretch is going to help them. Weirdly enough, I know they haven't been playing, their best in terms of like wins and losses or draws. But I think they're just, especially if they beat Girona this weekend, I think they'll be in incredible form to take on Leipzig. And so if we're going to go aggregate, I'm going to have to go for, oh, God. No, I'm going to go, I'm going to say it's a wipe. I'm going to say 6-2. I think it's going to be a wipeout. I think it's going to be a wipeout. I have tons of respect for a lot of those Leipzig players. Xavi Simons.
Are you sure?
I love Xavi Simons, and I hope PSG find a way to use him next season. But I think this is screaming wipeout for Real Madrid, and hopefully Vinny's okay. Hopefully, hopefully Jude can score again. I've been missing Jude, and my X factor is going to be Brahim Diaz off the bench. I love.
That's mine.
He's my favorite.
Yeah, you can say the same name.
Yeah, you're right.
You can. Brahim Diaz is my favorite super sub, in a long time. I love Brahim Diaz. Incredible dribble. He did kind of cost us our last match against Atletico. Kind of just narrowly missing his second goal, which would have given us the win 2-1. But I'll thank him for that first goal. So going back to the original question, confidence level 1 to 10. I'm giving it. I'm putting an 8.5. 8.5. I'm feeling very good going into this matchup. And just going back to Real Madrid's history in the round of 16, the last time they lost in the round of 16 was much sooner than Man City. It was 2019-20.
Was that who was that against? Man City?
It was. I'm trying to remember in my mind.
Because that was the one that was interrupted.
Yes, it was Man City. It was Man City.
I remember the second leg was behind closed doors.
Man City. Yeah. If I remember correctly, I'm just gonna double check. I think both of them were 2-1. Both game scores.
Well, that would have been in what? July, maybe June or July. The resumption of the Champions League.
It was August, right?
August.
No. Was it August? Right, Ricardo?
We were back at school when the Champions League final took place. Everything else was while we were still home.
I'm trying to remember. I think the round of 16 might have been before the shutdown.
The first leg of the second leg of at least some of the round of 16 ties were.
I actually do want to double check this real quick. I want to make sure.
I remember watching that game, and I remember some defender.
Yes, okay.
Made an error.
So the first leg was before the shutdown.
Ricardo's mind just clicked.
Yeah.
I remember bringing up on my story.
First leg was before the shutdown.
Oh, it was Varane. It was Varane who made 2 mistakes.
It was Varane.
Yep, those 2 mistakes cost us. I remember.
I drowned those memories out of my mind, especially since we've won since then. Second leg. So some of the second legs were played before the shutdown, 10th and 11th of March, and some were played on the 7th and 8th of August.
Okay.
After restart.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Because I remember Liverpool had gotten bounced, pretty sure, from the competition before everything shut down, and that was against Atletico Madrid. But I remember the City game. I remember Chelsea went to Bayern. There was a couple other ones.
Yeah. The second leg of City Madrid was in August.
Right. Okay. Good to know. Yeah. That's. I'm sure for both of you, that's a memory you don't want to remember. But,
no, honestly, I forgot most of it. Like Ricardo, I gotta applaud him for remembering the Varane.
I just remember calling him out on my story. That's what it was. I was like,
well, you don't have to worry about him now. He's currently playing for struggling Manchester United. But Ricardo, I got to ask you as well, confidence level going into this.
I would give it a 7 out of 10. The only reason being the injuries in the back line. And I mean, Nacho maybe not being available tomorrow. Rudiger status still kind of up in the air. I mean, at that point, you're looking at, Tchouaméni, center back, and probably Carvajal again as the right center back, and then Lucas Vazquez right. But like that doesn't really give me much confidence defensively. Offensively is a totally different story. I'm not like that worried. I mean, Vini, Rodrigo, and Brahim Diaz. I mean, they'll probably score a goal or two. And I mean, the goals are there will be goals, is my point. Defensively, yeah, that's my only reason I'm giving it a 7 as opposed to like an 8.5 like Andrew. But aggregate score, I'm gonna say it'll be closer than Andrew's. I'm gonna say 4-2. Real Madrid's favor, 2-1 both legs. So, and then my X factor, I would have to say probably Jude, just because it's not like he's been playing poorly. It's just that,
he ran out of goals.
We need the goals.
I mean, let's be real. Like it was going to run out of
fun with no more bullets left.
No, he's still providing assists. He's still
great.
So impactful in the game. Like, I just think, especially with the fact that he played with Dortmund, he's kind of familiar with Leipzig to an extent. Maybe that experience against them could help when they play each other. But I mean, I think Jude will probably contribute to a goal or two. And I think I actually don't remember how many games yet or how many goals he had in the Champions League going into this game, but he's had his fair share. So I feel like he might get back in the score sheet, and I did love the Brahim Diaz pick. That was great, but I think it's going to come down to Jude providing a goal or being involved in some form.
Two things. First, can I change my aggregate real quick?
Sure.
I'm gonna change it. I'll give Leipzig one extra goal. I'll make it 6-3. Just because I feel bad. Second, Jude. What's very the very noticeable thing about Jude, and I to be honest, I watched a little bit of him at Dortmund, not much. And of course seeing him at the World Cup. What I seen from him at Madrid, it's just he's so young, but his size he's a
tall guy.
He's just such a tall guy, but I'm honestly his strength, I think, is it's a very underrated part of his game to go along with his passing ability. I mean, I think his passing might be my favorite part of Jude's game.
Yeah,
and its ability to find open spaces in the final third with his precise passes, but his strength very underrated of Jude, and that I mean, honestly, that could be an X factor on its own, is his strength versus Leipzig, but we'll see.
Jacob, how do you envision this tie going?
I think Leipzig are frauds. I haven't believed in them the entire year. I don't think they're any good. They're 5th in the Bundesliga. It's not that good for a league that's okay. I know that Leipzig, they've been all right at home, so I'll give them that, but I still like Real Madrid to win on aggregate 4-1, 2-1 in the first game, 2-0 in the second game. My X factor also is Brahim Diaz. I like the energy that he provides when he comes into matches. He just seems like he has a nose for the ball and knows how to make plays. And he seemed like he's really been a spark plug for Real Madrid anytime he comes into the game. So I'll pick him. Even though so much for me thinking that was like a sleeper.
Well, he's my favorite. He's my second favorite club player at this moment. My Andrew club favorite power rankings right now is 1, João Pedro, 2, Brahim Diaz,
João Pedro, everyone else.
3, Vinny, 4, Jude, and then 5. I miss Thibaut Courtois so much.
And then 6 is Danny Welbeck.
6 would probably be Mitoma, but
oh no, excuse me, Jason Steele.
Yeah. Makes me really appreciate Courtois even more watching Brighton's goalkeeping situation.
I know Courtois is great. Trust me, I miss him a lot. I never wanted him to go.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Well, I got a crazy stat for Andrew and Ricardo. You guys have 1 loss since the beginning of October, 24 matches during that stretch. And that you've also only have 2 defeats in a total of 33 games this year.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty I find that very interesting because I've watched a couple matches in the league, obviously checked in on the Champions League. There's games where Real Madrid doesn't dominate, and yet every single time they find a way to score. It's a new person every single game. Someone from the midfield will score once in a while. Hosselu all of a sudden finds goal scoring.
Oh my god, he was one of our most hated.
Yeah,
all of a sudden.
I apologize to the fans because he was missing so many chances at one point. Now he's getting the goals. So I just find that very interesting. I think Real Madrid. I was talking about it with someone this week. I just think Real Madrid, no matter who's playing the number 9, playing without a number 9, I think Madrid's going to be a real threat in this competition. Once we get to a quarterfinal, a semifinal, it just seems like they have all the pieces in place. Everyone criticizes them for not having a number 9 that's, at the level of winning a Champions League, but their midfield is awesome. The defense is dealing with some injuries, but I mean, every single weekend we find a way to see them piece it together. So I think Ancelotti's got this thing rolling. It's a big weekend, of course, with the match in the league, but I think next week's going to be a big opportunity for Madrid to go to Leipzig and cause some havoc. I think Leipzig, who again are not in the greatest of form, they've lost 2 of their last 3 at home in the Bundesliga. I think they'll get a draw at home, but I think Madrid's just going to really cause a lot of problems on their defense. They're just giving up too many goals. I know in their last big games in the league, they gave up 5 against Stuttgart and they gave up 3 against Leverkusen. The same thing's going to happen to Madrid, I think. There's too much dominance from a Rodrigo, from a Vinicius. But the X factor I've gone with is Federico Valverde. I think another guy who maybe isn't getting the goals and assists that Jude's getting. He's only got 3 goal involvements this season, but I just think he's a midfielder from the right side that can drive with the ball at his feet. I think he's really dangerous going forward. And I think that's just a guy that adds more trouble to a defense that, again, is just giving up way too many goals in the league. And I think it's going to be the same in the Champions League. I just don't think Leipzig has the defense to really keep up with this team. I think they can score goals. Apenda's there. You have Benjamin Sesko, the youngster, who's come into the club and started scoring. But I just don't think they can keep up with a Madrid team that's just so experienced in this competition and always finds a way to dominate games, even when it doesn't seem like they're going to dominate. So I think Leipzig will score a couple, but I see this going 5-3 in favor of Real Madrid.
Real quick, before we move on, Ricardo, tell me if you agree. This is, or your feelings in general on this. This is probably my favorite Ancelotti managerial job since he's been at Madrid. Just in terms of like what he's had to overcome. I mean, if the poor backline play for most of the season without a real number 9, with Benzema going to Saudi, I just love the way he's been managing this year and changing up his tactics. to accommodate his current roster of players. I think this is one of his finest jobs, and I think even if they get knocked out, of course, like I'm not saying round of 16, if they get knocked out in a semifinal matchup, I think I would accept that is my thing. Now, Real Madrid, you want to win every year. Come on.
Yeah.
But come on. But with the limitations this roster has at this moment, I think this is one of his finest jobs.
Yeah, I would say so. And just I don't know if you've seen any of like the training videos that Real Madrid has put out every now and then. It's just like the vibes just seem like they're having a good time. They're enjoying themselves. Like, not to say that the other teams he's managed, they haven't enjoyed themselves, but like there's a certain confidence they have amongst themselves and a certain like just vibe, good energy that they have going. So, and that, kind of starts with the manager too, for one. So yeah, I would say, yeah, it's probably his best considering, they don't have a 9 and the backline's been just
without
depleted
Courtois.
by injury. Yeah, just all the injuries, the season ending. I mean, it's. I think if it's Chouameni's been starting at center back, they haven't allowed a goal so far.
That's
I'm pretty
crazy.
sure that's So I mean, I'd probably say so. Yeah, like, it's tough to beat this.
As Jalen Brunson would say, the vibes are immaculate.
I don't know. Real Madrid, they remind me like the Braves.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah,
I mean, it's honestly.
Sorry, in what sense?
They never lose.
They'll always compete. They'll always compete somehow, some way.
All right, I'd take that back.
The Mets fan in me over here is in pain.
Yeah. Yeah, Ricardo.
We don't choke though.
Ricardo, you have to accept it as a Phillies fan. Accept it.
No.
Accept the truth.
No.
Embrace the dark side.
Can't even beat the Diamondbacks.
Thanks. Yeah, no.
Real Madrid doesn't choke as much as the Atlanta Braves.
No, I know, but like they never lose, just like the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, well,
Real Madrid never lose.
Well, I don't want to worry about baseball till I have to. So
it's almost that time.
Well, let's move on to our next topic. It's our first one where it feels like the second place group finisher. Are we going?
I'm sorry. Which one were you going to talk about? I was just looking at. Okay, I was looking at the order on the Google Doc.
Did I? Oh, I must have it wrong. My apologies.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
You do not have the order wrong.
Oh, I had Lazio too first. Whatever, it's fine.
It was this one. This is the order.
Yeah, we're going.
I apologize if I had it wrong in the Google Doc. Let's talk Lazio versus Bayern Munich. Lazio have been inconsistent, I would argue. Currently 9th in Serie A. They haven't played their best football. And Bayern have a big test of the weekend. And I think the expectations are as high as ever still for the Champions League. So, Andrew, I believe you had Bayern in the final, correct? Or did you have them losing?
Yes, I had them in the final, losing to Arsenal.
Correct. So, I'll start with you. Does this feel like a cakewalk, or do you think Lazio will provide a bigger fight?
I mean, I'm not. This is not going to be a cakewalk by any means, but I mean, it's probably the same. It's probably the same level as like Leipzig and Madrid. It's probably the same type of competition, or like similar. I probably rate Leipzig a little higher than Lazio at this point with their roster, but I mean, it's definitely not Copenhagen, Man City. That's the lowest of lows.
No.
So I mean, I could see it being close. Bayern, they've, table wise, I mean, they're still behind Leverkusen, who's, having a phenomenal year. We've been been giving them their praises all season long. But I mean, Bayern's still doing fairly well in the Bundesliga. They're only 2 points behind. But they haven't put up great performances, and I mean, they've been winning in the Bundesliga, but they haven't been that impressive. I mean, only winning 1-0 against Union Berlin a couple weekends ago. I mean, their loss against Werder Bremen,
terrible.
That's terrible. That could be loss of the season for some of these big clubs. But I mean, only winning 3-2 against FC Augsburg. So they haven't been that impressive. So therefore, I think this will be a little closer than the Leipzig-Madrid matchup, even though it's probably the same level of quality on both sides. So therefore, I'm going to give this, I think it's going to be low scoring. I don't think it's, I think it's going to be 3-1 aggregate Bayern. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw at Lazio, and then it'll be 2-0 Bayern to finish off. But
like the same thing, man.
Yeah.
Same scores.
Hey, great minds think alike. But honestly, like this is not going to be a cakewalk for Bayern, even though Lazio it hasn't been that impressive in Serie A.
Jacob, how do you feel?
I have a soft spot for Lazio because they have Maurizio Sarri. I just trying to find two former Chelsea managers duking it out. And they have Pedro Rodriguez, who I love. Legend. Barcelona legend. Chelsea legend. Spain legend. Just a trophy winning machine. I'll always love that man. But I'm not picking them as much as I want to. Gonna go with Bayern. What is it? 4-3 on aggregate. I think these games will be tight. I think they'll be competitive. I think they'll be relatively fun to watch. But yeah, my X factor is Leroy Sané, who I've been a fan of ever since he was at City. He's having a pretty good year in the Bundesliga. He's got 8 goals and 12 assists, kind of like an underrated, really good season. I feel like he's had a hard time adjusting ever since he's gotten to Bayern, sort of finding his form again. But I think this year he has, and I hope it's here to stay because I've always rated him very highly with his pace and his shooting and all. I think he is the whole package when he has his head on straight. So I'm gonna pick Bayern to win. Yeah, 4-3 on aggregate.
By the way, I forgot to give my X factor, Kingsley Coman, because he's either very good.
He's you might want to change that because he's injured.
Is he out? Oh, did he just get hurt?
I don't remember what the specifics of the injury, but I'm pretty sure he's out till.
Uh-oh. Oh, you're right.
You can give his doctor a shout.
Collateral ligament injury. I'll say what I'm going to say anyways, because it's hilarious. Because Coman is either very good or very bad. He's the streakiest player I think I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
I guess. Oh God, do I have to pick a new one? I mean, I have a soft spot for Joshua Kimmich. It's just holding down.
Is that how you say his name? I thought
Kimmich.
No, I thought it's Yeshua.
Oh, you see, I don't know. I don't know if it's Yeshua.
I think it's Yeshua.
It could be. It very well could be. I just know it's Kimmich. But I don't know if it's Joshua or Yeshua. I usually say Joshua.
So do I,
but I'll just say Kimmich.
Oh well.
Hey, one of the best central defensive mids in the world. Holding down the midfield. I mean, if it's going to be a very defensive matchup, so possession will be key as well. I think Kimmich will be very important in that regard. So I mean, you already know what I said. It's gonna be low scoring, so I think Kimmich in this case. Wow, I did not know Coman got hurt.
Ricardo, you have the same aggregate score, I believe. Who's your X factor, though?
So mine is, I'm going defensive. I'm going Rafael Guerreiro because, I mean, considering all the injuries Bayern's dealing with defensively too, just like Real Madrid. Alphonso Davies out for like 6 weeks or something like that, some extended period of time. So he's gonna have to fill in defensively, and he's kind of. He's going to have to play solid because, I think it will be low scoring. And he's more known for his attacking than he is for being a out-and-out defender. But still, he's going to be, huge in these two legs. I mean, just to at least whoever plays center, but I don't even know at this point. Could be Dyer, could be Kim Min-jae, whoever is not injured, essentially. It's going to have to be provide some sort of stability on that left side. And he might provide an assist or two. I feel like he could do that because he played it primarily left midfielder with Dortmund and left back. So it's not like he is foreign to the position. So I think he'll be pretty important in both respects.
Yeah, I think this is going to be tough. Lazio's struggling to score goals, which is my concern with them. They only have 25 goals in 22 league matches, which ranks 11th in Serie A. And I think one stat I wanted to mention too is that, Napoli's been the team that's gotten a lot of attention because of how bad it's been, but they've scored 32 goals still, and that's 6th in Serie A. So the gap between those two teams kind of just tells the story. Lazio's been not great, but hasn't really been covered as much. And I think Napoli, I guess with the expectations that after you win the Scudetto, you have to kind of reach similar levels, and it's just been terrible for them, which we'll touch on later. But I think it's going to come down to Immobile. Can he find the goal-scoring form? Because they're not getting as many goals from the midfield when they had Milinkovic-Savic in the team. I know he had 19 goal involvements last year. So they're really missing the assets that they were getting from in the midfield, because Immobile at this stage of his career just isn't a guy that they can rely on to score 30, 35 goals in all competitions throughout a season, especially at his age. I think he's 33 now. The injuries have started to pop up a bit more. So if there's a guy for them to step up, I think it's Tati Castellanos. We've seen him with a team in like New York City FC who, won MLS Cup. He's went over to Italy, and it really hasn't worked out yet. He's still very young, so that could change. But I just think Lazio is going to have to find goals from other opportunities, like a Felipe Anderson or a Pedro. Someone's going to have to step up, because I think Immobile just has way too many responsibilities for them in order to, be successful in the league and now be successful in the Champions League. So for me, I think the X factor is Manuel Neuer. I think his status as one of the top goalkeepers in Europe has changed slightly. I know he's dealt with some injuries, but I just don't know if he's at the same level he was pre-injury. So I think there's going to be opportunities for Lazio to score in the first leg in particular. And even if they were to potentially win that game, I think they're going to have an opportunity to really kill Bayern on the counter in the second leg. So I think this will be close. I think all of you have kind of touched on that. I think it's going to be 3-2 to Bayern, but I think Lazio could easily, this is a team like in Bayern that is susceptible, as you guys have mentioned. Andrew, you talked about it with the underwhelming performances. I would not be surprised if this continues. It just doesn't seem like Tuchel has this team playing their best football, and I don't expect it to change before next week. I don't really expect it to change before March. I think it's just going to have to be something that, we wait and see as each game goes. They're dealing with injuries, particularly in the front. You have Kingsley Coman who's out. Serge Gnabry's also injured. So they're really relying on a Thomas Muller, who, again, I mentioned with Immobile, really passed his best, but he's playing pretty much every game at this point. And I think at the age of 34, just has lost a step. He's still very good, and he could still play an impact, but I just don't know if he would be in their best 11 with everyone fit. So I think Bayern's going to be really tested in this tie, but I do think they will sneak by, winning 3-2.
Tati Castellanos. I mean, I'm so glad you mentioned his name. He hasn't been too impressive in Serie A this year, but I mean, he was one of my favorite NYCFC players of all time, supporting that club. I mean, it's just, my decade of support for that team. He's on the all-decade team. But he had a good year at Girona last year. Yeah, he had a good year on loan. So, I mean, hopefully he steps it up, and this will be a great time for him to step it up. I love that pick.
Yeah, so let's move on to the one that I thought we were going to talk about before. My apologies, of course, is a team that I think is very dangerous as a second-place finisher in their group, and that is PSG against Real Sociedad. Our friends here obviously have watched a lot of Sociedad.
He's the dangerous team, right? Not Sociedad.
Yeah, they finished second in their group.
I was about to say, Sociedad's dangerous team. Like,
No.
They are. Hey, don't sleep on them.
No, I'm sleeping. I'm pressing snooze.
All right, Jacob, we'll go right to you then. What do you think of this then?
Okay, Sociedad don't score goals. They don't score goals. They don't score nearly enough goals. They haven't scored 3 goals in a game since December They don't have a lot of games. They score 2 goals. They
Okay,
struggle
but
to
they were without Kubo. They were without Kubo for a bit.
Who? I don't even know who that is.
Ricardo has left the screen.
Who?
You can't be serious, man.
This
The thing
kind of
is,
reminds me of someone talking about a man by the name of Yunus Musa.
Very good point. Yunus Musa?
But anyway, I think that PSG
Okay.
lucked out getting Sociedad, to be honest with you. I really don't think that they're a threat. Nice little Cinderella run. It's over. I think PSG won the first leg 2-0, and then I actually think that the next game will be a draw because Sociedad get a lot of draws, but it's not going to matter because they're already going to be up 2-0. X Factor, Kylian Mbappe. I mean, obviously, and the thing I love about Mbappe is this: he loves big games. He loves. No, he does. He's a prime. He likes playing in prime time, and that's important to me. I mean, don't forget he single-handedly carried France in that World Cup final.
That's true.
Which I think was more heroic than what Messi did. And yes, I said it. It was more heroic than what Messi did.
Yep.
At his age.
And you know what? How about Donnarumma get a shout? I mean, if they go what I predict and they're gonna win 2-0 on aggregate, that means he's gonna have to play pretty well, which means he's not gonna give up any goals. And I think he can do that against a team like Sociedad, who just don't do a lot going forward. So yeah, this is a wash.
Jacob, I was more so not scoffing at. Well, first off, Kubo. I mean, come on. I wasn't scoffing necessarily at Mbappe. I was more so scoffing at PSG in big games. But
I didn't make that about PSG. I made that about Mbappe.
That's fair then. That's fair. And to your points, you did make 2 very good points. Draws, no goals. You want to know how many 0-0 performances Real Sociedad have put up this year?
Please tell me. 10. Oh, okay. But yeah.
But hey, it's still impressive for midway through a season. 8 0-0s.
Yeah, impressive. Yeah, it's impressive.
Okay, but that will add to my point. They have the power of grit and friendship on their side. I think
this is Ted Lasso. I mean, golly.
Hey, Ted Lasso is real. Let's believe.
Yeah, so is Santa Claus.
Believe. Now, a few months ago, I said when we got the draw, I was saying I'm sorry to Real Sociedad. I was like Shawn Michaels, the Ric Flair, before he super kicked them and ended his career. I said I'm sorry to Real Sociedad. This was an awful draw for them. Probably PSG, one of the I would say one of the top. I mean, Inter was a second place team, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, them and Inter, they were the toughest second place draws. But Sociedad will keep it a little competitive. They'll keep it competitive. I don't think it's gonna be a wash. Like Bayern, Lazio, I think it'll be low scoring. I think PSG will prevail. They will choke in the quarterfinal, but for now, they'll go ahead. I'll say 3-0. I'll say 3-0 on aggregate.
Okay.
3-0. Yeah. I mean, it'll be competitive, but I don't see Sociedad being able to, find a way to score. I mean, the last 3 draws, the last 3 matches for them have been 0-0. They're gonna struggle to find the goal. So I'll say 3-0.
Okay. Kubo is back.
Yes.
Let me
it's a big.
That's a big addition.
Did you say Kubo?
Yes.
Kubo. Oh, isn't that
Kubo.
Isn't that the Japanese guy that was at Real Madrid?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Oh, now we know. All of a sudden.
He said like Google. I'm like, he said. I think he said like Google. I'm like, what the?
Puka Nakua is on the field. Yeah, for us. Yeah. Yeah,
Jacob,
exactly.
And I'd watch.
Yeah, Jacob. I'm gonna be honest. Your respect. I've and it's come back. Because at least you said, is he the Japanese guy from Madrid?
What else?
So you did though. So
I heard something else. That's why I wasn't.
I apologize for my laughter earlier.
I don't. Anyway, I mean, this dude is their most dynamic player, and I'm already saying this right now. I mean, he's going to be the difference maker, the X factor. And can we just look back at PSG in the group stage for a sec? They absolutely crapped the bed against Newcastle at St. James's Park.
Terrible.
Exactly. That's one raucous environment. Real Sociedad, I mean, their environment is also crazy. Like, the very intense fans. They're like pretty much on top. It was not a huge stadium. And then let's not forget, PSG also lost to Milan away from home. So let's not act like PSG is gonna walk into Real Sociedad Stadium and just stomp all over them. I don't think that's how that's gonna go.
Yeah, but they don't have to get through. That's the point. I mean, I don't think they need to do that much to get through. Because I
don't think you're giving enough praise.
I think you don't understand.
You know what? Before I know it, it's gonna be 10-0.
PSG literally survived the group of death.
Yeah,
but barely, and it's also.
No, I don't want to hear barely. I do not want to hear barely.
Okay,
give them some credit.
No.
Think about this. That group, PSG, is half of what they used to be.
Group with the reigning finalist. They
were
better than Inter, who I think are one of the three best teams in Europe.
Who are the other two teams?
Actually, praised too.
Did you predict Inter to be in the final?
That's not the point. The point is The point is, who are the other two teams in that group? Who are they?
In which group?
The group that had Sociedad and Inter. Who were the other two teams?
It was Benfica, who have been a strong team in Europe.
Benfica was awful this year. Awful.
Okay. Portuguese team.
Previously, they've been strong.
Yeah, previous years they have been good. Team? Salzburg was the other one.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Okay. Crap group minus Inter.
Oh my god. Okay, you know what? I'm just hoping that Real Sociedad shuts you guys up first off. And I can't believe I'm cheering for a Spanish team. That's the other thing. That's how much I hate PSG.
Roots.
I mean, seriously, the big stage, my ass. I don't care. PSG chokes every time.
They'll choke in the next round. It's too early.
No,
it's never too early.
Genuinely, I wouldn't be shocked if this game goes to penalties at the end of it all. And I also see that advances that way. Honestly, it wouldn't shock me.
I'm sorry. Wait. Did you just say Real Sociedad advances on penalties?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
Ricardo. I don't know. Why is that such a big shock?
You guys, Kubo can only take one. I mean, who else is going to take that?
Oh my.
Ricardo. Ricardo. I've given respect to Sociedad by only saying 3-0. That's mercy.
And I said
that's
2.
Mercy.
I said
that's
2.
Mercy.
Didn't give him a single goal.
Well, they don't score goals, Ricardo. They've had how many 0-0 games?
Ocho.
Exactly. The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, well, same for PSG. They only scored 1 goal on the road in only 3 games.
But 1 is better than 0. Is it not?
And I think I trust Mbappe a little more than Kubo.
Yeah, but,
come on, let's give Mbappe some.
I mean, stop acting like Mbappe disappeared. He's one of the 5 best players in the world.
And Mbappe is gonna have motivation if this is indeed his final year at PSG. He's gonna
or he might be checked out.
Good on.
Oh my goodness! Do not start the checked out.
He's never checked out.
Do not start the checked out.
Have you seen half the games where he just doesn't fight back, doesn't track back?
I mean, he's in Ligue 1. I mean, everyone's checked out.
No, he's gonna really try. He really is gonna try this match.
All jokes aside, I don't think he's gonna check out. But Ricardo, I'm on your side here. I have gone with Real Sociedad to go through as well. You guys can say all you want about Mbappe, and I know he's the first player in Europe to get to 30 goals in across all competitions, but the next highest on the team is 8 from Kolo Muani. So they're not getting anything from anyone else.
Ousmane Dembele is going to wake up eventually.
No, I think he's got 1 goal in the league this year. So until I see it from them,
he still got PTSD from Xavi.
Okay, Jacob, you just lost it from me. I was on your side this whole time.
But you hate Xavi.
You didn't need to say his name. You didn't. That's my thing. You just mentioned his name.
He doesn't want him brought up till the end of the episode. I just think Real Sociedad.
which I can't wait, by the way.
Yeah. I just think Real Sociedad is so strong defensively that say what you want about the lack of goals, but PSG, if they can, double Kylian Mbappe, of course, he's still going to find a way to score in this two-legged tie. But I just don't know if I trust anyone else beyond Mbappe in the front line. And right now,
gets no love.
Midfielder. I don't think I'm expecting him to be scoring multiple goals.
You guys are giving PSG too much credit.
Yeah, I don't.
They survived the group of death.
That too much credit.
Don't care. You really thought Dortmund was? They let Dortmund win the group.
Dortmund was incredible in the group stage.
Yes, going into the group.
Everybody knew AC Milan were frauds.
Hey, they stepped up in the group stage. Give them their credit. Give them their credit. That was the group of death.
PSG were fortunate to get through.
But who cares?
Newcastle was robbed at PSG.
Yep.
They should have got a result in that game. And if they got that result, everything would have changed. Milan would have got through the group then.
Milan are frauds. Everybody knows that.
They aren't frauds, but I mean,
okay,
they are not frauds. Jacob, you realize by you calling them frauds, it's actually worsening our point.
Oh well, I don't care.
Anyways, Sociedad have given up 1 goal or less in 19 of their last 20 matches. So you could say whatever you want about their lack of goals, but they're not going to give up many either. So
yeah, but are they facing a Kylian Mbappe, Koulibaly, Dembele? I mean, come on. Do
Chiellini and Bonucci in their prime play for Sociedad, right, and I missed it? I mean,
you're not giving enough respect, man.
Give me a break.
I think that Sociedad's going to go through by an aggregate score of 3-2. I'm riding with Ricardo here. I completely agree.
Is it not respectful to say it's a close PSG win?
I said 2-0.
Sociedad's playing with house money here.
That's fair. That's fair for Sociedad, I think.
It's not. You didn't give Sociedad a goal.
I said they're only going to lose by 2.
Wow, that's an achievement.
It is.
You get to the round of 16, you want to win. They don't have any pressure in retrospect in comparison to PSG. PSG is the team that's being picked to win heavily.
Though? I mean, this is like the worst PSG team in years.
Yeah, but their season is an unsuccessful one if all they do is win the league.
They don't have what do you call it, tournaments in France?
The Coupe de France, really? Come on. I don't think if they don't win the Champions League, it's a disappointment.
I mean, they're used to it anyway. No, it's not a disappointment. This PSG team, are you kidding me?
Considering PSG's Champions League history, you're saying
if they won the Champions League, then Enrique's the greatest manager ever.
The owners, you're telling me that they walk out of a season with just winning the league and they say that's a successful one?
Well, absolutely not. But even consider that they, when they bottle in like the quarterfinal or semifinal almost every year. I mean.
We're not that far removed from getting to a Champions League final.
Well, yeah, but even then, that's a big accomplishment getting to a Champions League final if you're a PSG. I don't know. I disagree.
How is it not?
Do you agree with me or not? Are you still no?
What
on that being? I just think they need to win the Champions League to have a successful year. That's my opinion.
Well,
they win the league every year.
Yeah, it's the same thing every year.
But they're not better than. They're not better than some of the best teams in Europe. They're just not. I mean, so even if they don't,
for them.
Yeah, well, that's their fault for not doing well in the last couple of years, and they had to sell players. So
they also don't play well together as a team. That's the other thing.
Other than Madrid advancing, I cannot wait to root for PSG.
I'm gonna pull up my Zlatan jersey.
Wait.
I'm gonna sing Mbappe praises.
Oh,
great, one player.
I'm gonna create a Warren Zaire Emery music account on X.
Do a Luis Enrique tribute.
Oh man,
of him up here and Xavi like down here.
Just might actually.
I think we've touched on this tie plenty. So
let's go on to like an actual.
I love the energy.
That was fun.
Two people have picked Sociedad, two have picked PSG. We'll see how this goes. But let's move on to Jacob's predicted champion, Inter Milan versus Atletico Madrid.
Now
Jacob, I gotta start with you.
Now these are games that we want to watch, like because I can promise you the next one. I'll sleep through that one. I can promise you that. Eindhoven Dortmund. Oh my God!
Shut up.
No, I will not be quiet about it. No one wants to watch that.
My PSV.
Ugh. Anyway, I mean, Inter Atleti. I mean, two teams that let's get this out of the way. This is hands down the best matchup of this phase. I don't think it's remotely close. This is by far the best matchup. Two teams that are very evenly matched, two teams that have very similar styles, and I think we're going to get two good games. Inter were not great in the group stage. I was not overly impressed with how they played, but they did enough to get through, and that's really what matters. And I'm sticking with them because I picked them to go all the way, so I'm not backing down. First game, I like Inter to win 1-0. And then the second leg, I think they're going to win a big, thrilling match, 3-2. Yeah, that'll be going wild with at Atleti where they play. So I got them winning. 4-2 on aggregate. My X factor, Jan Sommer, who quietly I think has been arguably the best goalie in the world this year. He has 14 clean sheets in Serie A. That's insane. He only gave up 2 goals in 5 UCL games. I mean, he's been tremendous. Obviously, I could pick Lautaro, but that's too obvious. I'm going to go with Jan Sommer. And yeah, Inter. Going through.
Andrew?
What was your aggregate?
4-2.
Okay. I'm going to give Inter the praise. They haven't lost a match in 2024, including wins against Juve, Lazio, and Napoli. Now Lazio and Napoli in the Super Cup in Italy, and Juve just this past weekend. But this is where I'm going to give my rivals some respect. This is I have to give Atletico Madrid some respect here, and I'm going to pick Atletico Madrid. Wow. This is I'm going to call this my shocker of the stage, even though it is the best matchup, as Jacob astutely said. This is the best matchup by far in this round of 16. But I still think a lot of people are going to pick Inter. I think they're going to be – I don't know what the betting odds are right now, but I still feel like a lot of people are going to pick Inter. Atletico Madrid, just this past year, whenever watching them play, and I've seen in 2024 they played Real Madrid 3 times already. So I've seen a lot of them the past few weeks, and this is a weird change of play for them. They're usually, I mean, we talked about gritty, like Real Sociedad being a gritty team. That's been Atleti's trademark for a long time. But this is a more flashy Atletico Madrid, a more explosive. Antoine Griezmann is playing so well right now as the orchestrator for them. Like he's probably one of the most informed players probably right now in the world, and it doesn't all show up on the stat sheet. Just I want to see his accurate pass percentage. I mean, the dude makes killer passes all the time, great crosses. But Griezmann's playing well. Morata's scoring goals. So I'm gonna have to go Atletico. I'm trying to think of an X factor for them, but for I'll get back to you on an X factor as I think through. But aggregate, it's going to be really close. It's going to be really close, really tight. I'm going to go 3-2. It might even go penalties. It might go. I'm not going to say it's going to go penalties. This might go penalties. I wouldn't be shocked. But 3-2, no penalties. I'll say that.
Ricardo?
I also had 3-2 as my aggregate score, and I also have Atletico advancing. And I do agree with what you guys have said so far. To to me feels like Atletico just has a little bit more of an edge to them, at least offensively. I'm not discrediting Lautaro Martinez whatsoever or Marcus Thuram. They're both great players themselves, but I just think, Correa, who is also still a really good player with Atletico, he's been solid off the bench. I just think that Atletico will squeak one out, only just, and that's partly because we've seen them. Real Madrid has seen them the last 3 weeks, and they're playing fairly well. So my X factor would probably be. I'm actually going to go defensively. I'm going to go Axel Witzel, because he's been playing the center of those 3 in the back, 5 in the back, whatever formation you want to call it. And he has to. Being that centerpiece of that back line, you have to make sure your center backs are in the places they have to be. And I just think defensively, it's just going to be, he's going to have to hold them all accountable. And he's played, I believe, the most games for a defender for Atletico this season, 22 games. It's going to be a tough challenge against those 2 strikers I mentioned before, but I think he's really going to have to be the glue of that back line in order to advance.
It's kind of bizarre that. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say real quick. Witzel, how old is he? Right? Is he like, he's got to be in his like mid-30s. Actually,
I was going to say, because he's got to be.
30s.
He spent a ton of time at Dortmund.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me that he spent so much time of his career as a defensive midfielder, and now he's just playing consistently in a back 3. Yeah. It's just one of the unique things, and I think Simeone deserves a ton of credit for molding him into a defender, because he's always had the strength and the size, but it's hard for a defender to go from playing one position, especially in the midfield, and then moving back. Of course, a DM is a 6. You can kind of find ways for that to work, but him playing such a key role is pretty impressive from a coaching perspective, in my opinion. But as good as Madrid have been, it's hard for me to pick against Inter. I think they are so comfortable in a lot of these games. I got a chance to watch them against Juve. Juve had nothing. They had 1 half chance from Vlahovic, and he just didn't take it, and that's it. I just don't know if any team really, there's very few teams, I think, in Europe that can really threaten this defense. And I think Madrid have been playing great attacking football. I don't take that away from that at all. Griezmann's great. I think he's been so impactful. But Inter's just really tough. They haven't lost a single game away from home this season in any competition. So even if, they were to have some struggles, I think they can really control both of these games. I know that Madrid's really tough to play at home. I think that's still going to be the case in this match. But Inter just seems to be really comfortable in a lot of these games. They don't seem like they give up too many big chances. Sure, a couple half chances will come here and there, but I think Griezmann and Morata will cause some trouble. I think they'll score. I think they only can get 1 goal across 180 minutes. I think this tie ends 2-1 in favor of Inter. And I think the X factor for me is Marcus Thuram. I think he's probably, if not the best one of them in terms of free transfers in the summer. I think he's been so impactful. When you thought that Lukaku and Dzeko left in the summer, things would be a little more difficult, but Thuram has been the perfect partner to Lautaro Martinez. I think he's been awesome, and he's a different profile to Lautaro. He's much bigger. He's a little, more of a number 9 that you can play the ball to at his back, and he can, dish it off to Lautaro or one of the 2 wing backs. So for me, I think Lautaro Martinez and Marcus Thuram have been awesome, and I think Thuram's going to find the goal at least once or twice. I think Lautaro is going to continue to be a facilitator. I think Thuram's going to be the X factor that gets them to the final 8.
That's good. And I had to think of my X factor, but I think I'm going to go Rodrigo De Paul.
Good name. Yep.
If they, I think he needs to have an assist, an important assist in one of these matches. for them to advance. And I mean, he hasn't, as a midfielder, he hasn't scored for them, and you don't expect him really to do so. If Rodrigo de Paul's play style, especially, he harkens back to that Atletico grittiness that we talk about historically for them. But he's been kind of on and off for them. But it seems like he's more in their good graces this year, and so I think he'll come up with a key assist, maybe the game-winning assist. Who knows? To advance.
I have a question: is Diego Simeone the Tom Thibodeau of soccer?
It's funny because they it's really parallel with them because they both adapted, it's so strange. They both changed their they're both very stubborn people in their younger years. Like, let's just talk even like 3 years ago, even 4 years ago. But with the evolution in their respective games, how they've played, Simeone's just opened his mind, it seems, to more free-flowing attacking football. Kind of inadvertently. He's just letting his players play without being so regimented in his tactics, which is actually what has happened to Tom Thibodeau. So that's a spot on, I think, comparison.
I just any excuse to bring up Tom Thibodeau is something I will do. The best coach in New York. Shout out to Tom Thibodeau.
Spot on, Tom.
Shout out to Tom Thibodeau.
The best coach in all of New York.
Actually, not an insane take.
It's not.
Not at all.
By a mile.
Yep.
Not even close. Not a close second.
Shall we move on?
Still don't like Simeone. I'm just going to put that out there.
No, I know you don't.
don't like Simeone at all. I love Tom Thibodeau. But, no, so similar.
Well, let's move on to a tie that Jacob maybe not be entertained by, but I think the rest of us certainly will be. PSV versus Borussia Dortmund. As American fans, obviously there's a lot of interest in this game, and I rightfully so. I think these are two really good attacking teams. Andrew, I'll start with you. What's your initial read on this and a potential winner?
Okay. I do not trust Terzic. I do not like Borussia Dortmund. They'll probably advance, even though I don't feel comfortable picking them. It's still Dortmund and PSV. They've been killing it in the Eredivisie this year. 18 wins, no losses. They have 2 draws, and both those draws came in their last 5 matches. So you can actually say that form-wise, it's probably their worst form of the season, even though they're still winning and they're still doing well overall. But I guess you could say that's how weak the Eredivisie is this year, and in general. But PSV has been my side since the beginning of this Champions League. I've given their praise. I said they would advance past the group stage. Happy for them, but they're going out. But like I said, I don't have all that confidence in Dortmund right now. So I'm going to say Dortmund will narrowly advance against PSV, which could be a shock to some Jacob wink wink. I'm going to say I think there will be some goals here. I'm going to say 4-3. I'm going to say 4-3 Dortmund. Just narrowly advances. And key player, it's got to be X Factor. It's got to be Marco Reus. It's got to be. He's the cog for them. You could argue Füllkrug. I wouldn't be opposed. I wouldn't be opposed. He's been in good form. But Marco Reus, he's the real leader, and he needs to get their spirits high enough just to prevail this tough. I'm not going to say it's gritty. It'll probably be more flashy. That's just the way PSV plays, and I think Dortmund will adjust to that. But I think Marco Reus has to make sure everyone on that side is in the right mindset to face this type of PSV side. You can't underestimate them, is my point. And I think he's a good enough leader to do that. So 4-3 on aggregate. Marco Reus is the X factor.
Jacob?
For me, I like Dortmund to advance. I don't feel very good about either of these teams. I don't think they're that good. But if I have to pick one, I'm picking Dortmund. I picked them to win 3-1 on aggregate. So 1-1 in the first match, 2-0 for Dortmund in the second game. Like Andrew, Marco Reus would be my X factor. I just think who do I trust when I look at Dortmund, and he's number one. Marco Reus. He's been in so many big games throughout his career. He's seasoned. Him. And if not him, I probably would have been like Julian Brandt, someone like that. But otherwise, I'm gonna go with Reus.
Ricardo, thinking an upset or agreeing with the two of them?
I'm gonna have to agree with the two of them. I also had 4-3. Andrew, we're on the same wavelength like today.
Hey, I'm feeling it. I'm loving it.
It's kind of scary how often we've been picking the same scores and the same teams, but we're gonna go with it.
We did not look at each other's notes, and PSG Real Sociedad proves that. But
exactly, yes, can't forget that. I mean, for as inconsistent as Dortmund have been in the Bundesliga, I mean, they topped the group of death. Let's not forget that part. And I mean, they've just played more consistently. They've played better in the Champions League, so I think that will probably continue. And I'm gonna say X Factor Fulkrug. I'm gonna say, how do you say his name? Fulkrug? Fulkrug? I don't know how you say it.
I think it's Fulkrug.
Fulkrug, right? Okay. I'm gonna go with him. And my reason for that is, I mean, yes, he's in good form, but in the entire group stage, he only had one goal. So that's gonna have to change, and he's gonna have to contribute a bit more. And I mean, he's a solid player. It's just a matter of him delivering on a bigger stage against, maybe tougher opponent than he's faced recently. But I'm going to say full career. I'm going to say Dortmund advance 4-3 aggregate.
I really wanted to pick PSV. It just feels like an opportunity for them. And I think they're going to win the first leg. I will say that. I think they're going to win the first leg at home, and it's going to really put some pressure on Dortmund to figure this out in March. I think they will. I think they'll take care of business at home, but I think PSV, I would not be surprised if they come out of this winning. Dortmund are not the same team they were last year. I think they're, construction-wise of the team, it's a little bit different. I think they, again, as you mentioned, Ricardo, they won their group, so they do deserve credit for that. I think the X factor for me is Daniel Malen. Another guy you mentioned, you talked about Fulkrug, who only had one goal. Malen had 0 in the group stage. And, I mean, tonight I got a chance to watch Dortmund. They beat Freiburg, and he scored 2. I think he's a guy that was talked about as a person who may leave the club in January. He didn't. And I think he's one of their big-name attacking players from the outside. I think Dortmund will win this 3-3 with winning on penalties.
Wow.
I think this goes all the way through 120 minutes in that second leg back. I believe it's in Germany. So I think Kobel, the goalkeeper, will make a couple saves in a penalty shootout, and Dortmund will narrowly advance to the quarterfinals.
Wouldn't shock me.
All right, let's move on to our final English club team that's not been in this tournament for quite some time, and it's Andrew's champion.
Hey.
FC
I really hate saying and hearing that, but it's the choice I made.
Do they get one step closer?
I mean, they gotta. I mean, come on. Is that even a question?
I just asked yes.
No, I'll give credit to Porto. I mean, they had some weird that group.
Weird.
That group was very weird.
Jacob Shakhtar almost got through.
Yeah, but I mean, Porto survived. I mean, those frauds, Barca. They should have had that over Barca, if you remember.
They should.
And remember who was reffing that match? Taking Jacob's favorite.
What? Who?
Anthony Taylor reffed that match. Yeah.
Ugh.
Should not have been. Anyway.
Yeah, Jacob loves that guy.
I swear to God, if he's riffing the Carabao Cup final,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that
next episode.
Actually,
we'll discuss.
People who are listening to this episode have already heard it. But
Correct.
We have yet to talk about it. But Arsenal has to win, and I don't think it's going to be necessarily that close either.
I don't either.
If Arsenal's on top of their game. So I'm going to say, you guys might be shocked. My original score was 5-1. That was my original aggregate. I'm willing to put it down to 4-1. I think I'm going to say
fine.
It's
That's
gonna
my
be,
aggregate.
I think it's going to be 4-1 Arsenal. X Factor, I'm going to say Trossard.
Former Brighton guy.
I got to support my boys. But no, I really do like Trossard. And I just, Arsenal has so many weapons. It's just, you could just, I mean, you talk about the abundance of riches for Manchester City. I mean, Arsenal's not quite that level.
No.
But they got a lot of depth. And you could really pick, I'd say, 6 of these guys, and I wouldn't even bat an eye. So I'm gonna say Trossard makes a difference. But in reality, it's not gonna be that close. 4-1.
I echo a lot of what Andrew said. I think that Arsenal are going to get by with ease. I like them winning 1-0 in the first game and then 3-1 in the second game to close it out at the Emirates, where they are almost unbeatable. So they're definitely not losing to Porto. I just don't see it. I think Arsenal, they've been waiting for this for a long time. You know, they were out of the Champions League for a while, which a lot of people forget, especially for their standard. And they're back now. They played really, I mean, not the greatest group, but they played pretty well. They did a very good job of taking care of business. And my expect, I'll just be safe. I'll go with Bukayo Saka. Again, like Andrew said, there's a lot of people you can pick, but I'll stick with Saka. I think the thing with him is, like, if they win, it's probably going to be because of him. And if they lose, maybe because he doesn't play well. You know, their performances are hinging on how good or bad he plays. So I'm going to pick him, and I'm going to pick Arsenal. As much as I hate them with all of my heart and soul, but taking that out of it.
Ricardo?
Well, I'm going to have to go with Arsenal too. I'm going to say 3-1 aggregate score. I also just think Arsenal defensively are one of the better teams. You might say maybe across Europe, but definitely in the Premier League. So it'll be tough sledding for Porto's attack. And my X factor, Jacob will love this one. I'm going to say Kai Havertz, because Gabby Jesus is obviously injured. So, and Kai Havertz has been filling in that position as sort of that false 9, kind of not necessarily
not well.
Striker, but okay, he's gonna have to step up, right? Like, someone's got to do the job.
Nketiah can do it better.
He's not getting a run in the team.
I was gonna say he's not really playing very much.
That's because Mikel has blinders on. Mini Mike Mikel.
But I think Kai Havertz could have an assist in this. You could actually make an impact. You know, you never know. I mean, not that you would love to see that.
He was good against Liverpool.
That
he was causing havoc. He got Konate sent off.
He's talented. He's just not consistent.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's a horrific.
Exactly why he makes him X factor.
He is horrific.
Christian,
is he not one of the worst finishers you've ever seen? He is awful in front of the goal.
He is very
with his foot, with his left foot, with his right foot, with his head. It doesn't matter. Sorry.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Banger.
But hey, he scored in a Champions League final, so that'll always be on his resume.
Have you done that, Jacob?
What?
Have you scored in the Champions League final?
They're going to score in a Champions League final.
Respect Kai Havertz.
He won't. Even if you tell him to, he won't.
I can love him for one moment.
You can.
And I hate to say this, and I love Chelsea. Pep lost that game more than Chelsea won that game by putting out the worst 11 he's probably ever put out in his entire career. But that's another story for another day.
I also have to go with Arsenal. Go ahead, Andrew.
No. Go ahead. Say what you want to say.
Yeah, it's tough to pick against them. Porto, every single time they get to the knockout stages, it feels like they get bailed out or they get knocked out in the round of 16. They've played a lot of European giants in that round, but it just doesn't feel like a dominant team. The good thing is for them is that Mehdi Taremi, the Iranian striker, is still at the Asian Cup, but they don't play till the following week, so they should get him back by then. I think he's a key player for them. I know there's some reports that he's going to go to Inter on a free in the summer, so they'll have him for the rest of the season. I think they're going to need goals from him. Porto did score a lot of goals in the groups. They were able to take advantage of a Shakhtar. Antwerp were awful. So there's opportunities for them to create goals. But again, Arsenal are very good defensively, as you mentioned, Ricardo. So that's why I'm going to go with Gabriel as an X factor. I think Saliba's been very good. I know he gave up. He was part of the reason why that goal was scored against Liverpool at the weekend. But I think Saliba's been one of the best young center backs in Europe. And I think Gabriel's gone under the radar too. I think he's been really, really consistent, very strong in the back. So I think against some difficult strikers, I know they're not big names, especially because they play in Portugal, but I think they will cause some problems. But I think Gabriel is very strong and very consistent. And I think he'll really give Porto a lot of problems in terms of scoring in the final third. I'm going to go with Arsenal to win 3-0. I think they're going to keep a clean sheet across 180 minutes. And I think they'll feel very good about themselves going into the quarterfinals.
I'm glad you said what you wanted to say first, Christian, because it's a perfect lead-in, really. And I was thinking this when Ricardo was talking about Gabriel and Saliba initially. They're probably the best center back pairing remaining in this Champions League.
I think they may be the best in the world.
That's going to be
really good,
big
really
factor
consistent.
for Arsenal.
Really good and really consistent.
Yep. Arsenal deeper in this tournament. That'll prove to be very important. So,
and I want to mention one player too who I could have argued for as an X factor as well is Jerian Timber, who's getting very close. I think he's in the Champions League squad. He played very well in that Community Shield game against City. I know Community Shield, but still, they played against a fully fit Manchester City team. He was brought in for a lot of money, and I think they've had questions at that left-sided area of the defense with Zinchenko, who really isn't good defensively. They let Kieran Tierney leave in the summer. So I think Timber will be, if they can get through this round, I think it might not be that impossible for him to be a starter come quarterfinals, because I think Zinchenko's great going forward. But if Arsenal really want to compete with the biggest teams in Europe, they have to be better defensively, especially on those wing-back areas. So I think Timber could become a starter as soon as mid-March, maybe late March. I think he's a big player for them as well. But let's talk about one that we've discussed very often throughout our general episodes, one that appears to be, I think, a 50-50. We'll start with you, Andrew. I know you two, Ricardo and Andrew, are not high on Xavi. Does he get through one round here?
I'm going last. I want someone else to go.
Okay.
I'll go.
Jacob, you go first.
As bad as Barcelona are, boy, did they get a gift. They got a team that may be in more disarray than they are. Napoli suck. They're in 7th in Serie A?
Yeah.
They're not very good. They're Osimhen and a bag of chips, okay? This is what they've been the entire year. I have no faith in them whatsoever. Who's their coach?
Walter Mazzarri.
I mean, who the hell is that? I mean,
Jacob's theme this episode. Who?
But and I know that Barcelona look like a train wreck right now, and Xavi's leaving, and Xavi's not very good at his job. I don't really care. They're good enough to beat Napoli, in my opinion. I feel actually very adamant about that. I like Barcelona 1-1 in the first game because it's in Naples, but then they win 2-0 back in Spain. And the X factor, of course, is my guy Ilkay Gundogan. Like one of the easily best midfielders in the world, top 5, top 10. Any team he fits, any team you plug and play. He's like the steady. He's what I think about him is that he's steady. And Barcelona are anything but steady right now. And he is the definition of a calming force when you put him in the game. You can rely on him. He's not gonna do anything nuts. And he just does his job. And he can score goals. He can get assists. He's that guy. So he's my X factor. And yeah, I like Barcelona to win 3-1 on aggregate.
Ricardo, I'll go first so you two Real Madrid fans can, figure out what you're going to go with. I'm going the other way. I think Napoli are going to get through. I mentioned before with Taremi at the Asian Cup. They are benefited by the fact that their first leg is in a week after, and Victor Osimhen can get back from AFCON, which by the time this goes up, we'll know if Nigeria has won. I think he's going to come back motivated. I think that regardless of the result on Sunday in the AFCON final, I think he's going to come back motivated. He knows he's leaving the club in 6 months. That's been pretty well documented by the president. He's talked about it. So I think he's going to come back with a different level. And I think the X factor for me is Kvaratskhelia. I think he was so good last year.
You actually said his name. Wow.
Hey,
I read that. I was like, nope.
I'm going to give it a roll, and it came off okay.
I go, I am. Thank God I ain't picking Napoli, and he ain't my X factor because
I just think
oh my God,
he takes pressure off Osimhen when he's going right. And in their last match against Hellas Verona, he scored the game winner. They've been shaky. I'm not going to avoid that. You look at their run of form, there's a couple losses in there, a couple wins, a couple draws. They haven't played well, but I've seen too many times this year where Barca's had leads at home. They give up too many goals. I mean, Villarreal's game was a great example of that. They winded up giving up 5 goals at home. Now, I don't know if Napoli's going to go to Barca and score 5. Probably not. But I do see a scenario where Napoli win the first leg. Barca finds a way to play very well early in that second leg. Maybe even have a lead on aggregate, and then they just choke it in the last 25 minutes. It's just the same story every single game. It feels like they haven't been consistent. And I think this is just going to be another bad performance from Xavi's team. I just don't think they have enough for me, and I just don't think they're organized enough to beat anybody really of note. I know Napoli have not been the same level as the Scudetto team, but Osimhen and Kvara are going to be a problem, and I think Kvara is going to score 2 goals in this tie, at least. I think he's just going to be really difficult to stop. I have Napoli winning after extra time in the second leg, 5-4.
Oh, so funny thing you say 5-4 because I also have that, but in favor of Barcelona. And it pains me to say that. As much as I want Napoli to win, Jacob said it before, I just think Napoli's in they're both in horrible situations for their own unique reasons, but I think Napoli's just been hit harder, and it's just has added up this entire season. And so, it really is a toss-up though. Like I could go either way, but I'm struggling to find a reason for it. Like I genuinely am like it could go either way.
You can't. I mean, they stink. I mean, they both stink, but one of them smells a little bit worse than the other.
I think part of it also depends because Napoli's played 4 in the back, 3 in the back. They've switched at times. They haven't necessarily played with one backline, one specific backline the entire season. So maybe that plays a small factor in how this outcome, how this really turns out. But my X factor is Lamine Yamal. The youngster, I have to go with him because, if you look at who they have available, Barcelona, Joao Felix is out, Ferran Torres is out, Rafinha's out. They're all injured. So, it's kind of up to him really to provide the goals for Lewandowski and Victor Roque, who's actually had pretty decent 2 games so far,
Except he
which
got
is
sent
annoying.
off.
But yeah, besides that part, which was controversial in and of itself, but I just think it's going to be a high scoring game. I just there's not going to be much defending in for either team, so I think it's going to be Barcelona. But I'm almost like talking my way out of it in this sense. I'm just like
last
seeing all
chance.
the injuries with Barcelona. It's just like maybe I should leave Napoli, but I don't know. I'm just gonna say Barcelona anyway. 5-4.
Barcelona is one of the most fraudulent teams of all time. This iteration of Barcelona. In the past, they've been one of the
Make that clear.
Yeah, we have to make that clear. Come on. I respect Messi. I respect those Barcelona teams. Really not, but I do. This is one of the most fraudulent teams I've ever seen. It's one of the most fraudulent managers I've ever seen. With one of the most fraudulent presidents I've ever seen. Jean Laporte, you want to hear what he said last week? He said, if we meet the budget, the darkest era in FC Barcelona history will be over. No expletive, Sherlock. Come on. What a joke. What an absolute joke. But Napoli is a much bigger joke right now. What the hell is going on in Napoli? It's crazy. If I was an AC Milan or an Inter Milan or a Juve fan, I'd be making fun of Napoli every single day of the week right now. What are they doing? It's gone down to the social media team this season. They've been a joke.
That was bad.
If you're a joke, God,
trickle down.
I feel terrible for Victor Osimhen.
Don't worry, he'll go to another terrible club that wears blue called Chelsea very soon.
I feel terrible for him. Hopefully he wins AFCON. But Barca has to win this. I think Christian, I don't know why you think it's gonna be so close, to be honest. I think it's gonna be 5-3 Barca.
Oh, you have 2 goals. I have 1.
Yeah, but you're saying, it's 50-50. I don't think it's 50-50. It's 5-3. It's close. Barca's still, I think, the clear advantage. And I agree with Ricardo. It pains me to say I'm a Lamine Yamal guy. I have bought in. 16 years old, and he's doing all this at the top flight. So he's impressed me so much. And he's gonna be playing for a long, long time. So that's good. That kind of annoys me. But and he already has. I remember he had 1 assist in the Champions League at least against. Was that the Porto match? If I remember correctly. So he's proven he could do it in the Champions League too. So I'm gonna give it the Barca 5-3. Lamine Yamal, and yes, Xavi thinks he's Jurgen Klopp. He thinks he's getting the Klopp send off at Barca. Yes, John Laporte does a joke. Yes, Barca's a joke, and Napoli's such a much bigger joke this season. So as much as it pains me to say, Barca is advancing, and I would say it's. It's like Christian said, 2-goal differential seems close. It's gonna seem bigger than a 2-goal differential. It's gonna be one of those matches.
The Lamal assist came in the final group stage match against Antwerp.
Right.
But yeah, I completely agree. The fact that the minutes that he's playing at 16 years old for a team that has so much history, it's pretty remarkable. So, we'll see how that goes. Is there any final thoughts before we head off? I know we got a second episode to record, so.
No, I will make fun of Barca if they advance to the next round. That's our time to shine. So
yes.
Yep.
Wait and see.
Well, a much longer episode. We appreciate those who have stayed all the way through. I'll post a thread for those that follow us on Twitter to kind of check and follow up on us and see who's getting the ties correctly. But that's all for us. Thank you so much for watching. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. See you later.
Take care, guys.